Good evening. What do you want to be when you grow up? It's a question we were all asked at one point or another during our adolescence. For me, the answer was always a dancer, a musician, and a psychologist, in that order. But as we live our lives, we learn that what we want and hope for don't necessarily always occur. And we are faced with the next question, now what? It is in this now what space that we are often forced to truly confront ourselves. My name is Michelle McKeithan, and I am here tonight not to celebrate being a dancer, a musician, or a psychologist. I'm here to celebrate my success in something equally as important, receiving my IT fundamental certification at Byte. My visions of becoming a dancer, musician, and a psychologist in that order were slightly derailed. And even though I did go to college, and I do have a bachelor's degree in sociology, and even considered tossing in my bid to speak at my undergraduate graduation, an irony that doesn't escape me now. I stand here today because I too was confronted with that question of, now what? Because life doesn't always go as planned. If you're like me, maybe you feel your life has been marked by a series of what seems like bad decisions and attempts at turning wrongs into rights. For me, after graduation from undergrad, I didn't exactly have a plan of what to do next. I came home with the expectation of helping my family. Great intentions, but a not so great decision. I would later learn I couldn't help anyone until I had helped myself. I went on to accept a position at the DC Housing Authority, but shortly thereafter I was offered a job in Manhattan at ABC Studios, where I'd done an externship my senior year sophomore. The thought of uprooting and moving to New York all of a sudden was overwhelming, so I declined the offer and stayed in DC. Bad decision number 2. I went on to begin a career in the district government and then within the private sector in real estate and construction. But in 2009, I was laid off. Now what? I made efforts to explore creative passions of mine. I danced salsa with the DC Casaneros for a short time. I took ballet and tap dance classes at the Joy of Motion Dance Studios. I bought a secondhand DSLR camera and lens and began taking pictures wherever and whenever I could. I obtained my passport and traveled to Italy and Greece. I considered that now was the time to lift my creative career off the ground. But then a mishap occurred, and I lost all of my images, all 10,000 of them. After much grumbling and despair, I was again confronted with the question, now what? Throughout all of these experiences, little seeds were being planted about Byte. I began to up my technical savvy by increasing my Twitter presence. I signed up for alerts, of which Octo was one, and would periodically receive texts about Byte. I was without a vehicle for a period of time, so I walked, bused, and caught the train. One of the previous Byte locations was on Benning Road, the street on which I live. As I commuted on the train, I saw signs about CompTIA A+. I had no idea what A+ was, but I felt an unction to explore it. And even though I had lost a lot of my images, I still created a lot of content and felt a need for a website to center myself. More and more, I felt myself being pushed toward technology. I wanted a concrete skill to my name. After that 2009 layoff, I experienced financial hardship and almost lost my home. I worked part-time jobs to assist me through the HAMP process. Once that was complete, I began looking for sustainable career work again. After having experienced so many challenges with my computer and other technological devices, the thought of working in IT began to creep into my mind a bit more forcefully. My values had changed, and I also had an appreciation for working closer to home, within my community. So I began interviewing for jobs in both IT and at a community bank. The bank job came through, and while I was on the job, I met Michael Johnson, the bank's head of cybersecurity and a Byte volunteer. After exploring opportunities for promotion at the bank and finding the option slim, I made a radical change. I felt all the signs were pointing me in one direction, IT, but not just IT, Byte. I left my job in banking and began taking IT classes with Byte full-time. After a minor setback that caused me to miss the spring orientation, I was able to attend the summer orientation and began taking IT fundamentals with Andrew. Now, I am taking A+ as part of the EPIC program. With the skills I've acquired at Byte, I feel the world is my oyster. It sounds cliche, but it's true. I've met so many wonderful people, made great connections, and most of all, expanded my skill set. Once I obtain my A+ certification, I plan to continue my learning, getting certified in both Networking Plus, Security Plus, and continuing on even further in coding and web design. So now what? Technically, I'm not an adolescent anymore. No one is asking me, what do you want to be when you grow up? And don't get me wrong, there have been positives throughout my journey. I was able to assist my family, and I volunteered at local cable stations in both DC and Virginia. But it is true that our lives may take a path that is unlike what we've ever imagined. So when I ask myself the question, who do I want to be? The answer is a person who can adapt to the circumstances, challenges, and changes of life. A person who can adapt when adversity arises. A person who chooses not to live a life of regret, but is resilient and recognizes and seizes great opportunities like Byte. A person who says, now what, because she is ready for the next challenge. If you're graduating today, then I also know that person is you. Congratulations, winter class of 2017.